that celebrates quality, cross-culture lifestyle and entertainment. Hello, and good evening. Welcome to this late night review of the Real Housewives of Lagos. Obviously, we're starting a little bit late because we're sorting out some major technical issues. So right now, I'm actually using a whole completely different device than the one I normally use. So bear with me if there's any lagging or anything like that, But either way, I'm hoping that you are going to enjoy this review and you're going to join into the discussions as we take a deep dive into episode 5 of the Real Housewives of Lagos. For me, for the most part, I actually enjoyed the episode. I think it was pretty great. It was pretty decent in the sense that there was not too much drama, so I kind of like that. But before we kind of head into the deep dive of this particular episode, I first and foremost would like to just do a little bit of the usual, obviously, housekeeping, just to give you a teensy-weensy little reminder. If you are obviously watching us over from YouTube, I was going to say Facebook first. If you are watching us over from YouTube, please do not forget to click on that subscribe button if you are not already a subscriber of our platform, and of course click on that bell button if you have not yet, so that you can receive notifications every time we go live like we are right now, and of course every time we upload new videos. And the obvious one is the video that you're watching right now. Do not forget to click on that thumbs up button, give us a like, as it goes a really long way in terms of the algorithm recognizing us and recommending us to even more people to come and watch this review right here. And of course, we don't forget about the people who are watching across over on Facebook. Please do not forget to click like on the video you are watching from right now. We are actually streaming across not 1, not 2, but 3 Facebook platforms right now. So give the video you're watching right now a thumbs up. And of course, do not forget to follow the page that you're watching from and tweak those notifications so that you can receive alert every time we go live. As you can see, the exhaustion is kind of starting to set in already. But yes, now moving right along to this brand new episode. I today don't have all the screenshots because, like I said, a lot of technical issues that we're going through. So hopefully we'll be able to kind of soldier on through the episode regardless. And so the episode, obviously, that we are discussing today is, let me just put it on the screen right now, is episode 5 of the Real Housewives of Lagos, season 1. And it basically was a continuation from where they left off last week. And for those who are not sure, last week, obviously, they left off having a slumber party. This was the trip that Chioma basically invited all the ladies to. So far, the people who've actually hosted trips have been Iyabo did the first one, I think, on a little bit of episode 1, I think, going into 2. And then obviously now Chioma. What I'm hoping for that is not going to be too heavily event invitation or trip, based, because as much as it's fun to kind of see them interact with one another, I actually want to see them. We want to follow them in their workplaces, maybe, getting to really get a deep dive into their workplaces and getting a little bit of a deep dive into their families, because I'd love to be able to see a little bit more of that, to be honest. And so on the first scene, we basically have the ladies, like I said, carrying on, and they are actually playing musical chairs, okay? As you can see on the screen right now, they're playing musical chairs and, they're dancing around, etc., that sort of thing. And the actual last 2 people who are left in the music chairs turns out to be Mariam, the new girl, and Chioma. But Chioma in the confessional says that, being the host of the trip, it wouldn't look so great if she was the one to win. So as they were circulating around the last chair, herself and Mariam, she did make a disclaimer to say, she's doing it with the mindset that she's going to let Mariam win. Now, when they actually eventually sat on the chair, for me, I saw Mariam as a clear winner, but then again, it could be the fact that maybe Chioma was kind of like walking around it slowly to allow Mariam to win. I'm not so sure, but either way, Mariam ended up winning. Everyone was kind of happy. And then afterwards, obviously, they all went and kind of like sat down, gathered together, and they were kind of playing a number of games. One of the games they actually played was, I think they played Truth or Dare. They did the music chairs, then they did Truth or Dare. And so obviously, as all Truth or Dare's games go, obviously, if you answer or you're unable to answer, you're able to do the Truth or Dare, there's always something that they make you do. But in this case, they were getting people to drink. Hang on. Did I mix them up? I think I might have mixed them up slightly. They were doing Truth or Dare, and they also did Never Have I Ever. That's the other one that they did. They did Never Have I Ever. So the first one was Never Have I Ever. When they did Never Have I Ever, basically a lot of the stuff that they were coming up with, Mariam kept on drinking. And for me, to be honest, I was not fussed about that. But what I was surprised by, and quite frankly, a little bit irritated by, was Caroline's judgmentalness, if that's even a word. I found that she was being a little bit too judgmental in the situation, whenever someone admitted to something, she's like, oh, that's too much information, that's TMI. I was like, yeah, but that's how these games kind of roll, so even if it's a bunch of strangers, it is an environment where it's supposed to be non-judgmental. So you're feeling conscious about people, knowing stuff about you, but you're judging others. I would think that you would be the person that would judge them less. So I did get a little bit irritated with Caroline in this, because I thought, at the end of the day, Caroline, behave yourself. It's not that deep. It's actually not that deep, And I just want to rewind a little bit when Mariam actually entered the room. Bear in mind, even if these ladies had all their +1s, the +1s did not travel with them, okay, to the destination. And so the +1s actually arrived after the fact, and they went straight to the rooms that the ladies were designated, right? So which means that the ladies did not get to see who the other ladies +1s were. So which kind of, for me, kind of voids what Chioma was requesting last time. So I want to know who your +1 is. I want to know, what kind of person that's it. But you didn't even get a chance to meet them. So you don't even know what kind of person they're actually bringing as their +1. So that confused me a little bit. But when Mariam walked in, and I think it was intentional that everybody kind of was already there, sat down, and they were already starting the game. And then Mariam, boom, suddenly, makes an entrance. I think that was on purpose, because, Toyin was already there. Tiana was there, Toyin's daughter. What reason would Mariam have arriving late if she was her +1? You know what I mean? But anyways, when she walked in, obviously everyone was taken aback. And I found it hilarious, because I feel like it was perceived as though everyone was like gashing, going, oh my gosh, who's this? No, it was a situation where like, well, we've already started the game. We didn't know that you were here, and you just kind of showed up. So naturally, people would be taken aback. I doubt that people were kind of shook about her presence, if that makes sense. With that said, I actually like Mariam. She's very lively and everything, but I think people's reactions were not really based on her going, oh my gosh, who's this? It was more like, oh, okay, we had already started, we didn't expect another person. I feel like it was more that reaction than anything else. But so they did their truth or dare. Some information was obviously shared. Mariam did end up drinking the most. And then, sorry, never have I ever. Then they went on to truth and dare. Truth or dare was fine until Toyin decided to ask Caroline about her marriage. She said, what exactly happened between you and your husband? For me, I just thought, okay, that's a bit, I don't know, it felt a little bit too deep and a little bit too probing, considering what happened just a couple of episodes ago where, Caroline completely lost it when her family was brought in. But Caroline was very honest. She was upfront. She said, I'm actually not comfortable talking about it. And Toyin was like, okay, that is fine. You say you're not talking about it, so I'm going to ask you another one. And they kind of moved on from that. And so because they moved on from that, I did get confused as to why the next day when, Chioma, I think it was the next day, Chioma and Caroline were actually discussing the games and everything, and Toyin's name is brought up in about asking her about her husband. She's like, well, she wouldn't like it if, I asked about her husband. I'm like, yeah, but yes, she might have brought it up, but I feel like she immediately was like, okay, she respected the fact that you were not comfortable talking about it, so she decided to ask you a different question. So I feel like that should have been taken on face value as is, because I feel like it didn't need to get any deep where you're kind of holding on to the fact that, oh, why did she have to ask me, for you to feel the need to want to still reiterate it at a later stage, if that makes sense. Because I feel like if she was really over probing, she would have been adamant to say, no, it's a dare, you have to ask, it's just a game, you have to ask. But she didn't. She didn't press her on it, she didn't push her to answer the question, she moved on and asked her a different question, and I think that Caroline should have at least appreciated that, in the sense that she respected her response and kind of kept moving, so yeah, that kind of, I didn't understand Caroline's antsiness about it later on. Maybe that, or maybe because for the most part in this episode I did find Caroline a little bit irritating. I think the judgmental attitude that she was giving was unnecessary, in my opinion, and so obviously they carried on with the truth or dare. Who else was there? At some point, Mariam actually dared Chioma to kiss her butt. And Chioma did it, it wasn't nasty or anything like that, but Chioma did it, and everyone kind of like giggled and laughed. They, for the most part, it looks like they actually had a really good time. It was really nice to see that there was no unnecessary animosity that was being held. There was no nastiness. I think the only thing that Mariam kind of felt a way about is when she was greeting everybody after she arrived. Caroline kind of gave her the queen's greeting kind of thing, like, at the tip of a fingers type greeting, and so that did not sit very well with Mariam, to which she actually did bring up I think the next day when they had their dinner. And so speaking of the next day, now they are fully into the next day, right? And with this one, first Chioma goes over to see Caroline in her room, and they're there chilling, they're talking, they have a bit of giggles where Chioma comes and says, I need you to make me breakfast, I need you to do this for me, which was kind of cute. And they started talking about what they thought of, the night or anything like that. And Caroline actually asked a question that made me think a little bit, where she was like, oh, do you think everybody was being real, And she was like, yeah. Chioma's response was that, as far as she was concerned, she, she felt everyone was being genuine, everyone was being real, and she actually proclaimed that she actually had a really good time. She had no complaints, And then they obviously talked about some of the questions. They're like, yeah, some of the questions were a bit much. But in Chioma, in her confessionals, was like, some of the questions might have been a bit much, but it is a game, so you can't really take any of the questions too personal, because it's supposed to be for fun more than anything, So from what I'm taking in this situation, in as much as Caroline and Chioma get on really well, I feel like when it comes to wanting to hold on to certain things and kind of like be like a dog on a bone and not let things go, I feel like Caroline is more willing to hold on to certain things and hold a grudge of some sort, whereas Chioma, by the looks of things, she gets upset about something and for the most part she kind of keeps it moving. But that's what I've seen displayed so far, and so they're having their discussion. And as they're having their discussion in the bedroom, afterwards she finishes and she goes over to actually see Laura, which was surprising. Okay, she goes to see Laura and she's like, I just want to make sure that she's okay, because we've had a bit of a tiff before, so I want to make sure that me and her are kind of like she's fine, she's comfortable, because at the end of the day, this is my trip. And so I thought that was really nice of Chioma. And I think that's what makes for a good host. No matter what you've had with somebody, when you kind of like still try to make somebody that you might be at loggerheads with feel comfortable, feel welcome, that is a good host, you know. And that's what she did. They had the discussion, and she actually even asked her to say, is there any underlying, you know, animosity, you know, anything that's still like, you know, you still need to get off your chest or anything like that. And they kind of giggled and laughed about it. She talked to her about the itinerary that they were going to have, you know, where they were going to go, what they were going to do for the rest of the day. And now, whilst this discussion is actually taking place, we go to the poolside of the hotel, and we've got Mariam and Toyin. Mariam and Toyin are kind of talking, and as they're discussing, we find out that it seems Toyin is not going to be with them later on in the day where they were going, you know, at the park. And so she's just basically saying, you know, this is your opportunity. She's saying this to Mariam. She's telling her, this is your opportunity to kind of like get to know the ladies a bit more, you know, get to know them for yourself, you know. And Mariam was a little bit concerned. She's like, you know, I don't really know these ladies, you know, I don't know what to expect, etc. You know, but she was like, yeah, but this is your opportunity to kind of get to know them, get to talk to them, get well acquainted, you know, better acquainted with them, etc. That sort of thing, you know. And for the most part, that's literally what they talk about. I don't remember them talking about anything else in particular, if truth be told, you know. I don't remember them talking about anything else. And so obviously when that finishes, and then they kind of switch back and forth between the conversation with Chioma and Laura, and then obviously the conversation between Mariam and Toyin. At least I'm getting the hang of the names. They kind of switch back and forth between the two ladies, and afterwards obviously it switches on to the afternoon. And they go over to the afternoon, where now they are traveling over to the location where they're going to be having fun at the park. I mean, Chioma called it the park, but I was like, oh, this is the park? You know, so basically they have like go-karting there. They have, they've got go-karting, apparently there was paintballing and everything like that. But the only thing that we actually get to see on camera is the go-karting. And only, I think, 4 people did the go-karting. It was Laura, Mariam, it was Tiana, Toyin's daughter, and I think one of the guests, I can't remember her name. And those are the 4 people who actually decided to go ahead and participate in the go-karting. Now, this was quite cute and funny, because obviously as they start, you know, with the go-kart, Laura was ahead. She was doing really well. And Tiana was actually behind pretty much, I think Tiana was behind Laura. And so as they're driving, something happens with Laura's cart, you know, and it's it comes to a stop. And when the cart comes to a stop, literally Tiana whooshes right by her, and eventually Tiana does win the race, you know, and everyone's kind of excited for her, and it's really cute. As I must say though, I was really impressed as to how welcoming Chioma was to Tiana. You know, she really made her feel welcome. She was excited for her. She was even rooting for her to win, you know. So I kind of like that about this. Now, guys, from here on, this is where I don't have any more slides to give you. So you're just going to have to bear with me or tolerate me talking, you know, to you. I could try and get some more screenshots for you real quick, but that's going to mean me turning my head this side and taking up a little bit more time. And I don't think you really want that. And so, obviously, when the go-karting is done, it switches over to the evening. And they looked absolutely amazing when they go over into the evening. Now, the dinner that they had, for the most part, I don't know if this was planned or anything like that, but the majority of the ladies wore black. Black with like some silver embellishments and stuff like that. And they looked gorgeous. Honestly, I will not stop saying this. The Housewives of Lagos really bring it when it comes to their fashions, and when it comes to making sure that they dress to the nines when when they're going to events. And I love that about them. You know, something else I've not been able to capture as well is the fact that Laura had a new confessional look that I actually liked. You know, I can try and see if I can collect, because I was impressed. I was impressed with Laura's new confessional look. It's like a blonde bob type situation, because I've not really liked her confessional looks for the most part. Laura's confessional looks have been a little bit lackluster, and every time I would grade, you know, the women and try to determine who looks better, etc., that sort of thing, Laura is the one for me that came across as the least, the worst. Not really the worst as in really bad, but like, at the bottom of the list, in my opinion, but this thing, obviously, because I'm using a different system, it lags quite a lot, so I don't think I'll be able to get that for you. I do apologize, but you can check out her look if you go over to the Showmax YouTube channel. They actually do have a clip where you can see Laura in a gorgeous new look with a blonde bob, and she's got a ruffly type white top. She actually looks really great. It's the best, I think. It's the best look she's had so far, bar none, out of all her other looks. Her other looks, you can throw those in the bin as far as I'm concerned, But so they arrive at this dinner, it's a beautiful dinner setup. And as they've all sat down, one of the things that did make me laugh was, because Chioma was first, and then Laura arrived with her friend, right? And when Laura arrived, Laura's looking gorgeous, she's like, and Chioma is saying in the confessional, Laura's arrived and she looks amazing. She looks, she's literally dressed according to the theme, etc. And then she mentions Laura's friend, and she's like, and I can't remember her name. She's like, it looks quite simple. And I was like, oh gosh. I'll be honest, in comparison, she did look simple. She did look simple. I'll be very honest. With that said, I do want to call out something though. Even if Laura's friend did look simple, I do have to question the friend that Chioma herself had. Obviously Chioma had two friends, right? Both of them had bobs. Now, the one that we saw in the previous episode who arrived at the hotel, she looked pretty simple to me too. It's either that or she doesn't like to put on makeup or anything like that. She looked very simple in my eyes. Unless I didn't fully get to see her outfit. I don't think we got to see her outfit, but looking from the glam on the face and the hair and stuff like that, she looked simple to me. So, a couple of friends were looking a little simple for this dinner. Otherwise, everybody else looked absolutely gorgeous. And this time, Toyin was actually with them. And as they sat down around the table, they started talking about something that I think Toyin and Laura had decided. Toyin, Laura, and Chioma had decided on playing a little game. I'm thinking, oh gosh, guys, are we going to be playing a game every single scene at this point? Please, let's not have any more games. Like, if you just want to say, let's get to know each other better, can we say this? Don't call it a game. Like, I feel like calling it a game kind of disqualifies it from just, it's like, oh, I know we want to do games when you're having slumber parties or, typical girly time, but this is more sophisticated. Don't call it a game. It kind of takes that away, in my opinion anyways. That's just my personal opinion, okay? So basically she's like, we want to kind of like see what our opinions are on people based on our initial first impressions versus now. And so who went first? I think Laura went first, and she talked about how she initially thought Toyin was going to be very problematic until now. I'm thinking, hang on, I thought they were friends. So that's confused me. I thought Toyin and Laura were friends even prior to the show. So how is it that she's only finding out now that Toyin is not problematic? And all this time she thought Toyin was problematic? Like, make it make sense, because I am confusion. Like, someone help me out, because I honestly don't understand, I am I mistaking it? I don't know, I'm not so sure. But anyways, so she says that, and she says this other really, just give me 1 second.
Recite my puzzle.
Okay, I apologize for that little hiccup. It's just gone midnight, and I always have my Alexa kind of say something to me at midnight. So I had to mute my mic for that. Otherwise, you would have all heard what it is that Alexa was reminding me of. This is personal. So anyways, so she says all these nice things about Toyin. I thought Toyin was this, but it turns out Toyin is actually much better than this, and it was kind of really nice. Actually, it's refreshing because it's a way to kind of get to understand, to say what you thought the person was and the journey that you like. Okay, so once you get to know this person, that's why they say first impression. They say first impression, yes, it's always good, but at the same time, it's like judging a book by its cover. Your first impressions will not always really determine what the person is really like, because not everybody is as they say they are from first impressions in my opinion, you know. And so she says all these nice things about her, and then Toyin actually reciprocates that and say, you know, I know that, you know, you kind of go hard and anything like that, but I do love the fact that you always support your family, you always back up your family. You know, she says a bunch of really nice things about her. And Caroline in her confessional actually says, you know, I think the stuff that Toyin is saying about Laura are actually true, because, you know, she knows her better than us, which I thought was really nice of Caroline. Now let's switch over to now when Chioma and Caroline are complimenting each other and saying what they thought each of them was, you know, in the beginning. Chioma starts off saying, you know, she initially thought Caroline, in not so many words, was stuck up, basically, was unapproachable, you know, that sort of thing. But it turns out, you know, she's really nice, you know, she's very down to earth, she just loves her. And she does talk about a few what I would consider superficial things, like, you know, look at your earrings, you look like a president's wife. I'm like, okay, that's got nothing to do with her personality. Like, can we just talk more about her personality? And then obviously Caroline reciprocates that to Chioma and says, you know, she's really kind, you know, she's a really nice person, you know, she's, you know, she basically, I didn't hear everything because obviously they kept on switching to the confessional of Laura. In Laura's confessional, in response, she's like, oh my gosh, get a room. I'm thinking, Laura, like, girl, the girls were not hating on you. Obviously, there was some facial expressions when Toyin was saying certain things about Laura, but based on Caroline's confessional, it seems there was no animosity against that. I could be wrong. Maybe I read that wrong. If you think I've read that wrong, feel free to, you know, comment in the chat and let me know, you know, if you think that I got that mistaken. But from what I have witnessed, it looks like, you know, maybe the camera, the edit might have done a little bit of manipulation, because what Caroline said in the confessional did not match the facial expression that they were particularly showing of Chioma's, you know. And so I was like, you know, so Laura going on, oh, get a room, oh, you know, this one's saying this. I'm like, Laura, what is your problem? Like, I feel like even if Chioma has gone out of the way to make sure that Laura is comfortable, I couldn't help but feel like, okay, is Laura now going out of her way to look for trouble? Is Laura going out of her way to stay mad at these people? Because really, when all is said and done, she herself has no real reason to be mad at these girls, because the person who these girls initially have a problem with, and by these girls, not just Chioma and Caroline, it's the entire group, it seems, they have a problem with your sister. And by extension, if you feel that your sister's actions have gotten people to dislike her, and you want to dislike those people because of your sister's action, that's your problem. Don't bring them onto these people, because I don't think that's fair, you know? And so I was just like, oh gosh, Laura, please don't start. But anyways, the evening kind of, like, you know, for most part kind of went well without a glitch. They had a good time, and they quickly switched on to the next day. And the next day we had, if I'm not mistaken, we had Mariam and Laura sitting by the poolside. Again, they seem to love the poolside, you know. They show Mariam kind of swimming and stuff like that. And I think it took them a minute for them to start filming, because initially Mariam literally jumped into the pool with her entire wig or whatever on, and it was completely wet when she was getting out. But by the time she was sitting down with Laura, it was practically pretty much dry. So I think they had to wait, or she either that or had another wig and she just, you know, swiftly changed it by the time Laura came and sat down with her. That's the only thing I can kind of think of in that particular moment. But as they're talking, obviously, I'm not sure who decided to meet up with who, or Laura said, oh, I want to chat to you before you go, or Mariam said she wanted to talk to Laura before she went. And they kind of started talking about, you know, the dinner. They started talking about the situation. She's like, you know, what have I missed, etc., that sort of thing. And Laura starts to give her version of the narrative of events, you know, talking about how, you know, when people come for my family, you know, I'm gonna come for you, basically, from the day I meet you to the last day, you know. And what I found very interesting was her narrative, actually. Laura's narrative at the beginning of that conversation was like, you know, I mean, when I first meet people, you know, I always approach people depending on what I hear they've said about me. And I'm like, why do you base everything on hearsay and gossip? You know what I mean? Like, so you're always going to approach people based on hearsay and gossip, and you're going to approach people accordingly. Like, for me, it doesn't make sense, because when it comes to hearsay and gossip, until you hear it from the horse's mouth or you've got proof, you never know what that person has actually said about you. So if you're going to approach them with a stinky attitude, I don't think, for someone who seems, in my opinion, a little bit desperate to make friends, that's not the way to go about making friends. That's not how you make friends. Okay, that's the way to deter friends, in my opinion. you know. So I don't know. I just found that very weird, very confusing, and unnecessary statement to make. But she kind of obviously follows it up by talking about how she mentions, Chioma mentioned my family, and I'm like, what? So again, I feel like production, if you're watching this, is there stuff that you're filming that we're not seeing? Like, is there stuff, are we missing like parts of this story? Because I swear down, the last time we watched not really altercation, when Chioma and Laura were at loggerheads, it was because once they were talking about the subject of Laura's sister writing the blogs and stuff like that were negative about Caroline, they were talking about how since Chioma said since she was in the process of talking about asking the sister to take down Caroline's articles that she wrote that are negative, maybe she should look into taking down the articles about Chioma's sister, which is I think Kiko or something like that, and that's when they ended up being at loggerheads. So I personally do not feel that Chioma said anything, unless, again, like I said, if production maybe filmed something that we don't know, or if there's something else out there in the blogosphere, in the interwebs that we don't know about, or that I don't know about, please let me know in the chat, because I would really love to find out what the basis of this level is. One thing, you're feeling salty, okay, about her calling you a customer and not a friend, but that shouldn't warrant you being basically holding on this level of a grudge. I feel like she's holding on an extra grudge, and that level of grudge that she appears to be holding, then there's more to it that meets the eye, and I'd love to know what it is. Is it something that we have not seen in filming? Is it something that's been happening behind the scenes prior to this show that we don't know about? Because I would really love to know. Is there something that Chioma said that's really nasty about your sister, that you feel like you need to protect your sister to the point where you're going to pretty much almost despise Chioma? Make it make sense, because right now it's not making sense, So she basically said, Chioma said some stuff, and we had it, and then we had something with Caroline. And so obviously in that moment, Mariam said, okay, it's now, the pieces are kind of fitting together, because at the slumber party, she was kind of by herself. I'm like, she was? But I thought her friend was there. So I was like, oh gosh, this is not, but anyways, so they have the discussion, and then they started talking about each other, like their personalities, etc. And all of a sudden, Laura's like, I think, I don't think I even trust you as well. And Mariam's like, what? So Mariam is shooketh, like, hang on, why you say you don't trust me? Like, make it make sense. Like, where is this coming from? Like, I don't know. Is it because, here's my thing. Could it be that because Laura is accustomed to being in the world of the internet, and the internet people love to fight? And by internet, I mean like influencers and internet celebrities, the ones who literally the celebrity solely came from the internet. And Laura being an Instagram star, she's got a huge following. She's got like 3 million followers, So do you think it's that environment that makes her feel she needs to poke or try to find, pick a fight with other people? Because I would really love to understand why all of a sudden she always gets the ump so easily and so quickly, and for the most part over nothing. In my opinion, again, I could be wrong, but that's what I'm observing so far. She seems to get upset and irritated or mad at somebody for no real good reason. There's some way she can be slightly justified, but for the most part, I feel like she hasn't got a real valid reason. And if you're going to be a grown woman, you're married with kids and everything, surely you should be more mature on how to deal with these situations. And that kind of confuses me about Laura, And so obviously, she's telling Mariam, I don't know, I think I don't trust you because I think me and you, we're going to have at it. And Mariam is like, I don't see it. Mariam in the confession is like, I don't get it. I don't see it, because she seems cool. I love her energy. So I don't see us fighting. But literally Laura is preempting that they're going to have a fight at some point, simply because they're high energy. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, clearly maybe Laura is just a, you have people who are a glass half full. She's a glass half empty, maybe type of person. Maybe she's a pessimist, because that's the only other conclusion I can come up with. Like, because honestly, her personality doesn't make sense. How she's consistently, literally consistently combative about a lot of things, So they have that discussion, and then they're cool. Then later on, which is something I'm super mad at production for, Showmax, whatever the production company is, I'm super mad at this. It literally just fast forwards. Doesn't tell us that it's the end of the trip. doesn't give an announcement to say, it was such a great time, you guys, we'll see you again soon. And nothing, no goodbyes, nothing. There was no real finale to the trip, because all of a sudden they're sitting in a lobby of a of a hotel, and they're meeting up, and all of a sudden Laura is like, oh yeah, I'm meeting up with the girls so I can talk about my fashion. I'm like, oh, okay. So initially I was thinking they were still at the same hotel and they were just chilling there, and she's just told them, say, hey, can you come and sit down with me for a minute? But where I started going, this is confusing, is because Mariam turned up, and then also Iyabo showed up. Okay, so bear in mind, for most of the episode we haven't seen Iyabo. We saw Iyabo in the beginning when they were doing previously and stuff like that, but for the entire episode, for the most part, Iyabo was actually not around because she was away. Remember, she went to London, Paris, and Turkey, right? And so this time Iyabo is there. I'm like, oh, Iyabo's here. I'm like, okay. And so now I'm thinking, my brain is thinking like, okay, are they still at the location? Have they left? What's happened? And so she starts saying, I want you guys to come for the fashion show. I'd like to invite you to my fashion show because I'm doing this, and there's something else I actually want to ask on top of it. She's like, because you guys are my friends. And I'm like, oh gosh. And I'll be very honest with you, if you pay close attention, you will find that both Mariam and Iyabo are feeling a little bit awkward with that statement. As a matter of fact, speaking of that same statement, when Laura is having the discussion with Mariam when they're still at the poolside at the location, she's basically saying, just be really careful. The last thing you want is someone to say that you're not your friend. I'm like, oh my gosh. I'm like, this friend thing has really bothered her. I'd really love her to actually have a proper sit down with Chioma at this point, because so that we can stop like revisiting the whole, you're my friend, you're not my friend. Because she even brought it up to Chioma when they were in the bathroom. And she was like, we're cool now. Yes, we're fine. I'm enjoying myself since we're not friends. And I was like, oh gosh, even Chioma was like, I'm never going to live this down, am I? She was like, I'm never going to live this down. And I was like, yeah, it looks like Chioma is never going to live this down. Like, trust, But I'd really love to know what the real issue is with that. Like, for me, I don't mind being someone's client. I have no interest in being everybody's friend. No. I have no interest, because maybe it's like the way people just throw around the word love. They just throw it around and it's kind of losing its meaning. And I think people like to throw around the word friend, and it ends up losing its meaning. You know what I mean? A lot of people are your acquaintances. Only a handful are your friends. Okay, so you shouldn't feel so thirsty or desperate to call people your friends, because you're like, oh, now that you're my friend. And I was like, oh gosh, not again. If they reject you, they're gonna now go in the firing line, same as Chioma. What's gonna happen with this situation? And so I just found that really funny, and I did feel the awkwardness. I honestly felt secondhand embarrassment, because I was like, no, don't say that. You're just embarrassing yourself. Don't do that. I was just like, oh, if I were me, I'll be sitting there going, I am embarrassed, because no, I just can't. I'm sorry, I couldn't. I was like, oh, when you have that meme of people like, oh, that's how I felt in that moment. I was like, no, don't say that. Don't push the friend thing. Let it happen naturally, girl. You're all right. Let it happen naturally, because then you don't stand a chance of being rejected. Okay. So she, validates, now you're my friends, whether you like it or not. I said, she did not just say whether you like it or not. Now you're going to force them by force or by fire. By force or by fire, you're my friend. Oh my gosh, that, I don't know, is borderline a little bit creepy, but but then again, maybe it's opposite. I don't know, I don't get it, but anyways, and then she tells them, I'd love you guys to be able to walk at my show, and Iyabo actually kind of says really quickly, oh, I kind of was expecting that, but again, you can sense a reluctance from Iyabo. I don't know, maybe I'm reading too much into it. Please do let me know if you think I'm reading too much into it. But I sensed a little bit of reluctance with Iyabo when she said that. Because afterwards, obviously, she immediately after saying, I was expecting that, she goes, well, she looks like a model. So almost like dismissing herself, distancing herself from wanting to actually walk. Because I think the way the interactions that she's had with Laura so far, I think Iyabo might feel a little bit, would the word uncomfortable be justified to use? because I don't know if trust is the word, because I don't think it's about trust, because they're not close enough to even use that, for each other. But I feel like I don't think Iyabo is comfortable like that with Laura. I do sense a discomfort. I do sense a little bit of discomfort. Again, I could be reading too much into it. We're going to have to find out in the next episode, And so as they're sitting and they're discussing, Toyin arrives. And when Toyin arrives, obviously she brings up the fact that, and I think Toyin brings it up, and I think Iyabo brings it up as well. And they talk about, where's Chioma? Where is, Caroline? And it's a situation where Iyabo asked, did you invite them? And Laura says, yeah, I did invite them. But Laura, being Laura, immediately goes, I don't give a if. I don't give a F or S, one of the two words, 4-letter words. She used one of those because she's, that's literally one of her main vocabularies. She was like, I don't give a toss, basically, whether they make it or not. I'm like, oh. And I'll be honest, with this particular part, I did feel sorry for her, because I'm like, okay, guys, you guys have kind of just made up, you're in a cordial place. Why are you not showing up for this little meetup so she can just tell you about what she's trying to do? I am hoping that on Chioma's side, because Iyabo did call Chioma, and Iyabo was like, she's at her aunt's birthday party or something like that, but she's going to be making her way. It's either she said she was on her way, or she's going to be making her way, so we don't know if she's actually going to show up at this actual meetup next week, or she tries to show up at the event, because they do show a preview to say, it seems Laura doesn't invite Chioma somewhere, and I'm assuming it's to the actual event itself, and I think there's going to be a problem that arises off of that. Whereas Caroline was not picking up the phone, so we don't even know the reason. But then again, with Caroline and Laura, I kind of expect it, so it's a situation where I feel like, in as much as Laura gives it all of that gangster stuff in her confessionals, I feel like she actually really wants, to a degree, to be friends with these people, but at the same time she's got this stinky attitude in confessionals. So it's really polarizing. It's really polarizing to try and understand. It's a bit of an oxymoron. You're one person in the confessionals, you're one person when the people are not around, but when you're around them, you still want to get along with them. And then when they don't show up, you're upset with them. So but then again, you want them to be around you, but at the same time, you don't care if they're not around you. So it's like, make up your mind. With that said, if both of them decided, we're just not going to go, I think they were wrong. I don't think that was right. I don't think that was very nice. Considering Chioma particularly, she your trip, and she had fun. She basically made the most of it and enjoyed herself, so I don't think it was very, very nice if that's the case, and so that's kind of like where the episode pretty much comes to a close. I feel like I've been rambling on for like forever, trying to give you guys a breakdown of the whole show. And so I don't know what you guys think. I would love to hear your thoughts, to know what you guys think about this particular episode. So if you're watching and you are interested in joining in on the discussion, I've just posted a link. I'm going to wait a few minutes. As you already know, I literally wait only for a few tiny minutes before I close the show. And so I have put the text in the chat if you want to join in and give your opinion. Let us know what you think, if there's anything that I missed in this particular episode. Unfortunately, obviously, I couldn't give you screenshots for the entire thing today, which is a shame, but like technical issues, man, like literally past midnight, I'm still here chatting away. Normally I would have been done by now and probably almost heading to bed. Well, kind of, AB says, I enjoyed this episode. Me too. I actually enjoyed this episode. It was a good episode. It was a fun episode, because honestly speaking, I know people love drama and stuff like that. I actually just don't think that every episode has to be all about the drama. Not every episode has to be all about the drama. I think it's nice to be able to see the ladies in a positive light, because at the end of the day, as a Black woman, I would love to see Black women in a positive light, doing amazing, and they don't have to be at loggerheads every single day, because I honestly believe in real life, we're not at loggerheads every single day. That would be unrealistic. Like, my gosh, what kind of blood pressure would you have if you're at loggerheads with people on a daily basis? And so, like, watching a reality show where we're seeing women every single episode at loggerheads, it's like, come on, that's unrealistic. And quite frankly, it's quite toxic. And we don't want that. We don't want that for our Lagos housewives, okay? You can leave it with the other housewives who already have toxic environments as it is, and that can't be fixed. But We don't want that for the Lagos Housewives. We want it to be like, okay, here and there, a bit of shade here, and a bit of shade there, but nothing that goes too deep that becomes toxic. I do love the fact that when they have any issues, they actually bring them to the forefront there and then. They don't try to let it linger too much. And that's why I feel like Chioma and Laura need to have a proper sit down so that this doesn't linger, because clearly, even if they have discussed it, but I feel like they've only discussed it on the surface. They haven't really delved into it, because obviously the whole friend thing, it was a discussion that was had between it was a discussion that was had between Iyabo and Chioma and Iyabo and Laura. I've not seen them out of an argument setting like they had at the picnic, where they were able to actually sit down and actually say, okay, let's address the elephant in the room. What is your real problem with me? Okay, you don't like the fact that I say that you're just a customer, you're a friend. What is the reason behind that? And then Chioma can say her part and say, look, I thought we were not friends because of the simple fact that we don't hang out outside of the, the boutique. And then Laura can maybe say, I mean, for me, if I shop somewhere a couple of times, you're automatically my friend. I don't know what it is, I just think that they need to have a sit down so that they can kind of put it out the way. Pretty much the way when Caroline greeted, Mariam in a way that made Mariam feel uncomfortable, made Mariam feel some type of way. Mariam addressed it the very next day at the dinner. She said, I didn't like the way you did that, that sort of thing. But, after we got to know each other, after we had the slumber party, I did think that you're a bit of a B. They used the B word. And that did cause a bit of a problem with Caroline. She's like, oh, be this. Why do they keep using the word B? And I actually do get it on both sides. Maybe people like Mariam are used to throwing around the B word. Personally, I wouldn't want to refer to my girlfriends using the B word, because it's a no. It's a complete no. I mean, it's actually also a trigger word for me. Like, let anybody try to a B word to me. No, I'm not going to take that too kindly, especially in anger. But at the same time, even when you're just joking around, I don't think it's the type of word. It's just, no. It's a no. I'm not a female dog. The last time I checked, I'm not a female dog. So I will not be referred to that, whether it's be in a classy way or anything like that. I refuse, so I do get not referring to your friends, like that. But this is why when you're dealing with new people, it's important to pick and choose carefully when you're going to decide to use the B word. And I feel like that was the slight problem that maybe Caroline had, and maybe she didn't articulate it well, because again, like I said, I felt a bit irritated by Caroline because I felt she was just coming across as judgmental. So in that situation, she could have just addressed it to say, you know what, I get it. Maybe she's used to using this lingo, but for me, I would rather we didn't, rather than going, oh, just pick another vocabulary. No, yeah, but you're saying vocabulary. You're not even saying vocabulary. So people can nitpick on that too, Caroline. So, and she felt some type of way. And something I did notice, and this is something now I'm seeing a pattern, right? Toyin. When Caroline and her friend arrived, Toyin was like, here comes the latecomers, just troopsing in. I'm like, oh, clearly Toyin has got a bone to pick with Caroline in regards to, I don't know if it's just the lateness or there's something else in addition to the lateness that she doesn't like about Caroline. She seems a little bit irritated by that as well, and when Mariam was saying, I thought you were a bit of a B because of how you greeted me, but I got to know you a bit more when we went through the rest of the party, and I think you're cool. She's like, I don't think you're a B anymore. I mean, I think maybe you're still a B, but in a nice way, And then Toyin added, said, no, she's a B. And I was like, oh gosh. I was like, these people really love to make things worse. And I feel like this now, it's still simmering. It's still simmering, but very, very soon that kettle is going to blow. And I feel like it's going to cause a blow up, possibly between Caroline and Toyin, because bear in mind, in episode 1, Laura did mention that she was surprised that Caroline and Toyin were actually talking, because the last time she spoke to Toyin was saying that her and Caroline had a falling out and they were not talking to each other anymore. So she found it surprising that they were actually having, they were being cordial and they're being nice to each other and they're getting on just fine. So I don't know what it is that was said, because again, that was never revealed to us, what was actually, what transpired between them. But it seems something did happen. And I think whatever it is, it's still boiling in the surface somewhere behind, because I'm also looking at the way Caroline got offended on how Toyin was asking about the truth or dare, about, you know, what happened with the husband, etc., that sort of thing. And she refused. Said, would you like it if I, you know, spoke about your husband? She, in the confession, she said your baby daddy. And then when she was with Chioma, she said, you know, if I was to ask about her ex-husband and stuff like that. So clearly there's still some underlying tension between them two that they don't seem to want to bring to the surface. But I feel like it is going to reach boiling point at some point. And I'm looking forward to seeing that happen, because I'm very curious, because I feel like when it reaches boiling point, then it will be revealed. The same way the Caroline versus Laura situation versus Chioma in a little bit situation culminated and stuff was actually fully revealed. I feel like it's going to be that, where stuff will actually have to be talked about in order for people to actually understand why the tension, why the animosity, you know, why the nitpicking. You know what I mean? It's not necessary. Where is this coming from? I would like to know, you know, the viewers definitely would like to know. And I'm hoping it's going to come sooner than later, because I'm going to be literally curious throughout, you know, when this is happening. And so, obviously, guys, I'm going to be now bringing my live to a close. But before I do that, I'm just going to send another tiny little reminder, as always, you know, please do not forget, if you are watching over from YouTube, please do not forget to click on that subscribe button if you are not already a subscriber of our channel. And of course, click on that bell button so that you can receive notifications every time we upload new content and every time we come live, as I am right this second. And of course, people over on Facebook, please do not forget to click on that like button, and of course, follow the pages that you are watching from right now. And of course, do not forget to tweak the notification so that you can receive alerts every time we go live and every time we actually post new content on our website, as we do, because every time we post new content on our website, which is www.tgzmag.com, where you can receive everything to do with pop culture, lifestyle, entertainment, you can visit www.tgzmag.com and they automatically get published on our Facebook pages as well as our YouTube page as well. So you can go ahead and follow that and read up on all the latest, not gossip, because we don't really do gossip, but we do have very good and important information that we offer, newsworthy, from technology to fashion to travel. We actually talk about it all. So you can find it over on tgzmag.com. Otherwise, that was the discussion on Showmax's The Real Housewives of Lagos, Season 1, Episode 5. If you are watching this video after the live has already ended, please feel free to give us your thoughts in the comments below. And of course, do not forget to share this video. If you know anybody who would like to be able to have an insight and listen to this review, please feel free to share it to all your friends. Otherwise, from myself and everybody else who's been tuning in and participating, thank you so much. We appreciate all the love. We appreciate all the support that you are giving us. It really helps us out. It helps our platform expand. It helps us be more visible within the algorithm. Otherwise, from myself and my lovely team who helped put this together, it is good night and have a lovely rest of the weekend. And for those in the US and other parts of the world, I think it's Mother's Day for you guys. Happy Mother's Day. Goodbye.
You are watching TGZ TV.
The Global Zambian, the only magazine that celebrates quality, cross-culture lifestyle and entertainment.